From Eve to Dawn, 2004. From Eve to Dawn is Marilyn French's enormous 3 volume, 600-page history of women. It runs from prehistory until the present and is global in scope. The first volume alone covers Peru, Egypt, Sumer, China, India, Mexico, Greece, and Rome, as well as religions, from Judaism to Christianity and Islam. It examines not only actions and laws but also the thinking behind them. It's sometimes annoying, in the same way that Fielding's Amelia is annoying. Enough suffering. And it's sometimes maddeningly reductionist, but it can't be dismissed. As a reference work, it's invaluable. The bibliographies alone are worth the price. And as a warning about appalling extremes of human behavior and male weirdness, it's indispensable, especially now. There was a moment in early 1990s when it was believed history was over and utopia had arrived, looking very much like a shopping mall and all feminist issues are supposed dead. But that moment were brief. Islamic and American right-wing fundamentalists are on the rise, and one of the first aims of both is suppression of women, their bodies, their minds, the results of their labors. Women, it appears, do most of the work around this planet, and last but not the least, their wardrobes. From Eve to Dawn has a point of view, one that will be familiar to the readers of French's best-selling 1977 novel, The Women's Room. The people who oppressed women were men. French claims, not all men oppressed women, but most benefited, or thought they benefited, from this domination and most contributed to it, if only by doing nothing to stop or ease it. Women who read this book will do so with horror and growing anger. From Eve to Dawn is to Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex as wolf is to poodle. Men who read it may be put off by the depiction of the collective male as brutal psychopath or puzzled by the French's idea that men should take responsibility for what their sex has done. How responsible can you be for Sumerian monarchs, Egyptian pharaohs, or Napoleon Bonaparte? However, no one will be able to avoid the relentless piling up of detail and event, the bizarre customs, the women-hating legal structures, the gynecological absurdities, the child abuse, the sanctioned violence, the sexual outrages, millennium after millennium. How to explain them? Are all men twisted? Are all women doomed? Is there hope? French is ambivalent about the twisted part, but being a peculiarly American kind of activist, she insists on the hope. Her project started out as a sweeping television series. It would have been made riveting viewing. Think of the visuals: witch burnings, rapes, stonings to death, Jack the Ripper clones, bedizened courtesans, and martyrs from Joan of Arc to Rebecca Nurse. The television series fell off the rails, but French kept on, writing and researching for ferocious dedication, consulting hundreds of sources and dozens of specialists and scholars. Although she was interrupted by a battle with cancer that almost killed her. The whole thing took her 20 years. Her intention was to put together a narrative answer to a question that had bothered her for such a long time. How had men ended up with all the power? Specifically, with all the power over women? Had it always been like that? If not, how was such power grasped and then enforced? Nothing she had read had addressed this issue directly. In most conventional histories, women simply aren't there, or they're there as footnotes. Their absence is like the shadowy corner in a painting where there's something going on that you can't quite see. French aimed to throw some light into that corner. Her first volume, Origins, is the shortest. It starts with speculations about the kind of egalitarian human gatherer societies also described by Jared Diamond in his classic Guns, Germs, and Steel. No society, says French, has ever been a matriarchy. That is, a society in which women are all powerful and do dastardly things to men. But societies were once matrilineal, that is, children were thought to descend from the mother, not the father. Many have wondered why that state of affairs changed, but change it did. And as agriculture overtook, the patriarchs set in, women and children came to be viewed as property, men's property, to be bought, sold, traded, stolen, or killed. As psychologists have told us, the more you mistreat people, the more pressing your need to explain why your victims deserve their fate. A great deal has been written about the natural inferiority of women, much of it by the philosophers, religion makers whose ideas underpin Western society. Most of this thinking was grounded in what French calls, with wondrous understatement, men's insistent concern with female reproduction. Male self esteem, it seemed, depended on men not being women. All the more necessary that women should be forced to be as female as possible, even when, especially when, the male created definition of female included the power to pollute, seduce, and weaken men. With the advent of larger kingdoms and complex and structured religions, the customs and interior decoration got better, but things got worse for women. Priests, having arguably displaced priestesses, came up with decrees from the gods who had arguably replaced goddesses, and kings obliged with legal codes and penalties. There were conflicts between spiritual and temporal power brokers, but the main tendency of both was the same: men good, women bad, by definition. Some of the French's information boggles the mind. The horse sacrifice of ancient India, for instance, during which the priests forced the Raja's wife to copulate with a dead horse. The account of the creation of Islam is particularly fascinating. Like Christianity, it was woman friendly at the start, and supported and spread by women. But not for long. The Masculine Mystique, Volume 2, is no more cheerful. Two kinds of feudalism are briskly dealt with: European and the Japanese. Then it's on the appropriations by Europeans of Africa, of Latin America, of North America, and thence to American enslavement of black people, with women at the bottom of the heap in all cases. You'd think the Enlightenment would have loosened things up, at least theoretically, but at the salons run by educated and intelligent women, the philosophies were still debating, while hoovering up refreshments, whether or not women had souls, or were just kind of a more advanced animal. In the 18th century, however, women were beginning to find their voices. Also, they took to writing, a habit they have not yet given up. Then came the French Revolution. At first, women as a caste were crushed by Jacobins despite the key role they had played in the aristocracy toppling action. As first the male revolutionaries were concerned, revolution was possible only if women were utterly excluded from power. Liberty, equality, and fraternity did not include sorority. When Napoleon got controlled, he reversed every right woman had won. Yet after this point, says French, women were never again silent. Having participated in the overthrow of the old order, they wanted a few rights of their own. Infernos and Paradises is the third and the longest volume. It takes up through the growing movement for the emancipation of women in the 19th and 20th centuries, with the gains and reverses, the triumphs and the backlashes, played out against the background of imperialism, capitalism, and world wars. The Russian Revolution is particularly gripping. Women were essential to its success, and particularly dispiriting to the results. Sexual freedom meant liberty for men and maternity for women, says French, wanting sex without responsibility. Men charged women who rejected them with bourgeois prudery. To treat women as men's equal without reference to women's reproduction is to place women in the impossible situation of being expected to do everything men do and to reproduce society and maintain it, all at the same time and alone. It's the final three chapters that French comes into her home territory, the realm of the most personal knowledge and her deepest enthusiasms, the history of feminism. The political is personal, the personal is political, and the future of feminism make up the promised dawn of the general title. These sections are thorough and thoughtful. In them, French covers the contemporary ground, including the views of anti feminist, conservative women, who she argues see the world much as feminists do. One half of humanity acting as predators on the other half, but differ in the degree of their idealism or hope. If gender differences are natural, nothing to be done but to manipulate the morally inferior male with your feminine wiles, if any. But almost all women, she believes, feminist or not, are moving in the same direction along different paths. Whether you share this optimism or not will depend on whether you believe the Earth Titanic is already sinking. A fair chance and a fun time on the dance floor for all would be nice, in theory. In practice, it may be a scramble for the lifeboats. But whatever you think of French's conclusions, the issues she raises cannot be ignored. Women, it seems, are not a footnote after all. They are the necessary center around which the wheel of power revolves. Or seen another way, they are the broad base of the rectangle that sustains a few oligarchs that at the top. No history you will read, post French, will ever look the same again.